Okay, perfect. So this session is being recorded. You are informed now. So we try to make it sustainable for people who can't join today or who can only join later. And I'm happy to welcome you all here. This is our second event during our Global Diversity Month, and we already had lunch here in person in Berlin yesterday. So we're trying to give you opportunities to meet people, to exchange in person, but of course we also want to dive deeper into the topics of diversity and inclusion during this month in virtual sessions. So this is the first virtual one where we will dive deeper into the topic of inclusive leadership together with Joanne here. And it's called the Inclusive Leaders Journey. And actually, maybe, I don't know, maybe you watch it, maybe you heard of it, that we announced our global D&I strategy on April 26th during the Berlin Calling. If you haven't seen it yet, you can still rewatch it. And yeah, activating leadership is actually one of the pillars of our strategy. Therefore, this topic is somehow attached to it. And I'm really excited to have Joanne here with us today because we already know her from our Global Diversity Week last year. And I really enjoyed that session. Joanne is really an expert on diversity, inclusion, and belonging. She's also a transgender awareness specialist. And I think she can really help us with her expertise to develop in this field. You can scan the QR code here if you want to learn more about her work. But for now, I'm just simply going to leave the stage to her and follow the session for now. So please, if you have any questions or need help with anything, just pop it in the chat during the session. Otherwise, Joanne, the stage is all yours now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for that warm welcome. I see we're quite an intimate group at the moment, so only 14 or 15 of us. If it doesn't increase by many, I think it's good. If you want to ask questions as we go through, you can use the raise hand function. You can react, pop things in the chat, and I'll look at it from time to time. We do have a breakout towards the end, so I'll speak for probably 35, 40 minutes, and then we have a breakout, and we're going to use Google Jamboard to capture your thoughts, so we can feed that back in afterwards. So I'll talk to you about that when we get there. But in the meantime, let me do my thing. There we go. So hopefully you can see me big, both hands. Yeah, all good. Use the 3 dots if you can't, and then fill your screen, because I'm going to pop my slides over my shoulder like this. Okay, so hopefully you can read all that. So this is why we're here. And this is what, as I was introduced, the Inclusive Leaders Journey. So it's about developing and nurturing inclusive habits and behaviours, because we as leaders want to ensure that our people, our colleagues, also feel this sense of belonging, part of our organisation. And we need to think about the positive change we can create. So that's what I'll be talking about today with you. So I've broken it down to 4 objectives. So the first of these really is to talk about the importance of ensuring basic hygiene. Make sure these factors are in place before we start to think about motivation. And I'll talk about why that's important. So in order to create positive people experiences, and I'm a great believer that the output of D&I, the output of inclusive leadership, is around creating positive people experiences. That's what D&I is all about, whether that's candidates, talent acquisition, whether that's HR, whether that's customers, or whoever it may be. We want to create a positive experience for the people who work around us, because work has to be good. Being culture first is about recognizing this and then finding out how we can work on it, because we don't want work to be negative, creating bad feeling amongst our people. So it's about positive people experiences. So think about this, an old theory, Hertzberg. He says performance equals motivation times ability and the environment. So how do we motivate our people? Because what we need to make sure is that we're motivating and creating the environment for people to exceed, and assuming we employ the right people with the right ability. Because if we're not encouraging our people, we're not motivating them, we're not putting the basic factors in place, then motivation will decrease. We don't just focus on carrot and stick. We're looking here to understand what the basic needs. And I think a lot of D&I work, a lot of inclusive leadership, is putting the basics in place. Maslow, again, another theory that you may well have heard of. We look at the hygiene level, that's the safety needs, the psychological needs, making sure that our people feel safe, the psychological safety, that we're paying them well, we're rewarding them, the office feels good, there's no discrimination, no bias, or minimizing those where we can. Then we can start motivating, pushing that level of belonging, creating relationships with the organization, and then following that through self-esteem into self-actualization. But we need to get the basics right, because if the basics aren't right, people won't feel safe. So I say this a lot. What is inclusion? What is an inclusive leader? Inclusion for me is about how you make me feel by how you treat me. Very simply, if you treat me in a very positive way, I'm going to respond positively. I'm going to feel part of the organization. Treat me in a different way, I'm going to feel demotivated. I'm going to feel threatened. I'm going to feel the company isn't for me. So we've got to focus on the fact that how we make our people feel by how we treat them is crucial to making sure we have great employee engagement, and as an inclusive leader ourselves, getting the best out of our people, because that's our role, really, isn't it? It's motivating, getting the best out of our people. The freedom principles, again, this is a mantra I ask everyone to sort of consider. And if you take nothing else away from today, to take these principles away. When we think about people, when we think about making judgments, whether it's in the recruitment, whether it's in management, work allocation, whatever it may be, ask yourself, am I being fair? Am I being respectful? Am I giving that person the chance to succeed through equality or equity, giving them the tools, understanding that not everyone's the same. Some people may be neurodiverse, but some people's language skills are different, some people's thinking styles are different. How am I motivating my people, and what can I give them to make sure they have the skills? Treat them with dignity, making sure we're not putting them in a place where they don't feel comfortable, and of course, giving them a choice, agency, and autonomy. So I try and ask myself these questions when I'm dealing with people, when I'm interacting. Am I being fair and respectful, giving someone the chance? I'd encourage you to think about those as well. So I think building psychological safety and trust is really, really important. We want to bring, we've heard the expression, bring our whole selves to work. Psychological safety means that we can speak up. Psychological safety knows that we're not in fear of our job for saying something. There's negative consequences. How often do we find we have to mask, hide, or cover our identity, whatever that may be, so that we can speak up and be ourselves? So psychologically safe teams is about creating environments, nurturing culture where people feel safe, people feel that level of trust, and the leader themselves is responsible for ensuring that everybody feels part of that and can contribute, building their career, building their own images. So I always think this is the foundation of making sure that people can be authentic and be themselves. And part of that also is listening. I think a crucial part of the leader's role is to listen to the people, listen to what people say. Because as a leader, we shouldn't be saying, this is the way I want to do it. I believe we should be saying, this is the objective we're trying to achieve. How can we achieve that? And asking people to contribute to that. And there's a phrase that I hear often is, you said we did. So there's no point in asking people if you're not prepared to take action and do something with it. And we see the same in employee engagement surveys, where people don't get survey fatigue, they get lack of action fatigue. So understanding what my input is and what's going to be done about it. Because I won't continue to speak up or share my views if I don't believe change is ever going to occur. So the second objective is to think about these 6 traits, the 6 C's of an inclusive leader, and how they're important, how we can nurture them. Let's talk about those. So fairness and respect, it goes back to those freedom principles I just mentioned. Making sure that people feel included, they know they're going to be treated fairly. They know that their views are going to be respected. They feel they can speak up. They feel this value and belonging. They contribute to the overall goal and mission of the organization. Your values, their values are aligned. They're part of a team. They understand their place in that team. They understand their responsibility. They're not just a programmer, a coder, an accountant, a bookkeeper, whatever their role is. They're there to meet the objectives that Axel Springer, the overall company, are trying to achieve. Everyone understands they're part of it, not just their little part, the big part of the mission. And of course, they have confidence and inspiration. They trust, they believe, and they're inspired to do better. I also think another role of a great leader is to ensure their people progress, even outside of their own teams. I always think it should be your mission to hire somebody and see them grow and see them move on or see them expand into bigger roles. So people need to have this faith that they're going to be able to grow and they're going to get inspiration to succeed. 6 traits we're talking about is cognizance, understanding your role, understanding about biases, understanding about the challenges people face and being aware of those. Curiosity, thinking about people. Cultural intelligence, we'll talk about these in a minute. Collaboration, commitment to change, and having and being courageous. Because when we think about, if we think about in a coaching model, we want to go from our comfort zone into our stretch zone, but not our panic zone. So we need to have the courage to move forward and not stay where we are. So we think about, oh, I've missed, sorry, let's go back one. So commitment to change, commitment to your people, courage not to stand still, curiosity is about finding out about people, cultural intelligence, which I'll talk a bit more about in a moment. And I also believe collaboration is a very core skill as well. If we're not careful as leaders, what we end up doing is working in isolation. We want to collaborate with our teams, with other leaders, other departments, and share best practice, share best ideas. And listening, again, as I mentioned, is a very core skill. So collaboration, commitment, courage, cognizance of bias, understanding the disadvantages people face, understanding the challenges people face, being aware in our interview process where we're allocating work, we're not bringing bias into our workplace. So the biggest barrier to inclusion for me is the fear of saying or doing the wrong thing. I hear this time and time again. People are worried. They tend to lean back rather than lean into the challenge. We need to understand how to have conversations with people who are not the same as us, who are different to us, come from different backgrounds, different cultures. And when we're building this inclusive culture, it's a journey. There is no magic bullet. There is no one size fits all. There is no right or wrong. It's about what works for our team, our people, and our organization. So we should not feel that we don't know enough. We don't know where to start. Embarking on this journey is the key. What we're looking for here is a statement of direction. Where we're not inclusive and not diverse, it's maybe at the bottom. What we're trying to achieve is this positive polarity. So we're moving towards being more inclusive, more diverse, where people can gain high work satisfaction, healthy employee turnover, because we don't want people to be static. People are loyal, they're adaptive and agile, they're creative, and they innovate. That's where we want people to be. But if we're not creating an inclusive environment, then people are going to have conflict. There's going to be low work satisfaction. People are going to leave. There's low loyalty, low creativity. So focusing on both diversity and inclusion together, they go hand in hand. But it's about, as I say, there's no magic bullet. It's about this polarity and moving into that positive space. So why is it EQ and cultural intelligence are the foundations? So emotional intelligence is our ability to understand and use and manage our emotions in positive ways. We have to be self-aware of how we show up, our emotional states. We can often come from meetings, we can often be in the middle of stress, we can have lots of frustrations in our life. And often what we find is we can bring this into the room with us when we're talking to our people, managing people in meetings, whatever it may be. So becoming self-aware of our own emotional connection is the first step. But from being self-aware, we can then move on to sort of self-management, self-regulation, understanding how we show up, how we can show up, recognizing the need for us to manage our emotions in a way so that we not only relieve our own stress, but we don't impart stress on others. We're creating environments where people feel they can work effectively without feeling undue pressure. So some of this is down to empathy, having empathy and compassion for the needs of people, understanding their own work-life balance, their challenges, their own learning styles, what support they need in order to succeed, and also understanding conflict, not giving conflict, diffusing conflict, understanding the dynamics within teams, the pressures that people face. We can overcome challenges. But a lot of this stems from our own ability to manage who we are and how we show up in order to be adaptive to the needs of our people. And cultural intelligence is our ability to function in a culturally diverse environment. So we need to be attuned to our values and beliefs of different cultures, different languages. And I also think culture goes beyond just faith, race, or ethnicity. Culture is about culture of different sub-communities. We think about people with disability, people who are LGBTQ plus, people who are from different backgrounds. Each community has its own language that's important to them. So cultural intelligence is about understanding the needs of those individuals. And I would say some of the key skills there is around, first of all, is the drive to understand you need to learn about different people. So drive to seek out the knowledge. The knowledge is the second area. We learn about the different cultures and learn about the different languages, the different nuances people use. And from knowledge, we move on to a strategy, understanding how we can deploy that knowledge. And then from the strategy, we take action, knowing full well that we've got the knowledge, we've got the strategy, we can start to be adaptive. We start to think about how people communicate, recognizing that different body language may be in play. We recognize that some cultures are very direct speaking. Some cultures use lots of metaphors and lots of flowery language. So if you're interfacing with someone who is a very direct speaker versus someone who maybe is not a direct speaker, then there can be a mismatch in how we communicate. So it's important to understand those differences around intercultural communication. So objective 4 is to understand how different perspectives and motivational factors can affect employee experience. So biases and perspectives and blind spots are really important. We can demotivate people through playing to biases by using language that's not appropriate. Understanding our own perspective and how we see the world is really, really important. So if we think about this equation here, E plus R equals O. So E, an event, something occurs. So we have to make a decision about people. We have to make a decision around hiring decision, work allocation, whatever it may be. And of course, our perspective leads to react in a way. We see the world this way, therefore we're going to react. And of course, that leads to an outcome. But what we have to recognize here is, as I said, this plus is our perspective. How I see that event, how you see that event is different. And we can look at that in maybe when we're voting in an election. So we all have a piece of paper. We all have to tick a box to see who we're going to elect into government. And we don't all choose the same box because we all have a different perspective of who the best candidate is. And that can happen in the hiring process, it can happen in our work as well. So we vote. That's our reaction. And the outcome is someone becomes elected. So there are lots of different ways. Our perspective is not the only perspective. Sorry about this. I think I've got the slides in the wrong order. No, there it is. Okay, let's do this one next. I seem to have this in the wrong order. So our perspective is everything. If we look at this picture here, the person on the left believes the sphere is black. The person on the right believes the sphere is white. And from where we sit, we're sat back. We can see that the sphere is both black and white. So it's not until you tweak or adjust where you sit, how you see the world, you understand that there's more than one truth. There's my view, it's my perspective, there's your view and your perspective. So it's really, really important that we don't think that we have the only answer. This is where biases, this is where blind spots can form. And one of the interesting things about biases and blind spots is we don't know we have them. So it's really important to be able to call each other out, to be able to ask challenging questions, to ask, why do I believe something? And this is where this expression comes in. Strong opinions weakly held. So yes, we have our view. Yes, we have our opinion. Yes, we know what we believe in, our perspective. But we don't hold it so tight that we're not prepared to think about different solutions, different answers. That's where we can let it go. So I often say maybe we scratch our thoughts in sand, not carve them in stone, because we can always change and rub them out. Because too often we get stuck into our beliefs, our views. This is where blind spots can occur. Do we stop our thinking, slow down, rewind, and consider our perspectives, our biases? Are we making decisions based on information that is unsafe, is problematic? Are we making decisions based on the fact that we believe something is true? So by stopping, rewinding, and considering other views, we can then start making more logical, more informed decisions. I believe it's important that we talked about it in emotional intelligence, about bringing ourselves into the room, being present. And I think we all have to be responsible for our own thoughts, our words and deeds, how we show up, how we impact those around us. Because language matters. How you describe me, how you talk about me, it matters to me. And I'm sure how people describe and talk about you matters. If we talk about people in a negative way, they're going to assume that negativity. If we think about someone as clumsy, someone as inefficient, we'll always consider them in that light. So when we're allocating work, when we're leading them, we'll always have that bias in our minds where we're seeing the view of people. And sometimes that language can leak out. We end up sharing our thought to other people, and then that person can always be seen as maybe clumsy or inefficient or careless of what they do. So we have to be really focused on how we describe people and how we use our language and the positivity we need to portray. So the respecting others is about not just treating people as you would like to be treated, but treating people as they would like to be treated. To understand that each person has their own lived experience, their own values, their own needs, their own communication style. So as an inclusive leader, recognizing that our own style must be adaptive. We can't motivate everyone the same way. We can't communicate in the same way. We can't lead everyone the same way. So recognizing that every single person has their own needs, and as an inclusive leader, we need to be adaptive for that. We also need to be responsible for our intent more than our impact. So someone's intent is what you're thinking or what you're feeling when you were communicating or when you're interacting. Impact is how that person felt or how they reacted. So that's the difference between intent was what you thought you were doing, impact is how that was perceived. I often think about a good example is when we think about manslaughter and murder. The intent with one is that it was an accident, it didn't mean to kill somebody. Murder was the intent was, yes, you did intend to kill somebody. But the impact is, in both cases, someone died. Someone had their life cut short. Some family lost a loved one. So yes, intent is important. Good intent is always good, but negative impact is always problematic. So we've got to consider how we show up, how we communicate, the language we use to others. So as a leader, being really cognizant of how we're interacting and how we're making people feel. So who's responsible? Our people for culture. Who's responsible? Is it our staff, our colleagues, or is it us as leadership? Is it us as leaders setting the culture, setting the tone of our organization? Okay, I'm going to pop us into breakouts now to talk about this, and it's 15 to 20 minutes. We're going to use a single Google Jamboard, and each breakout I'd like you to elect a spokesperson so that we can report back what you've summarized. And the Jamboard will be collected, and everybody will get a copy of all of the post-it notes that's gone on here. So these are the core topics. So which of the inclusive leadership traits do you feel are most important? Which do you feel personally or as a group you need to develop? Is it more courage, more willingness to investigate and change? Is it understanding the biases? Is it curiosity about people and finding out about different cultures, the cultural intelligence, be competent around different cultures, the collaborative style, or your commitment to change and to building a better environment? Or is it about what hurdles you've encountered as leaders in regard to motivation and communication with colleagues from different backgrounds? How did you overcome these? What are we doing well as an organization? Where could you see improvements in the leadership culture and in teams? And then thirdly, can you think of where hygiene factors, there's bias, discrimination, or bad practice within the organization that could be addressed? So each of the rooms, pick one of the topics. I mean, if you get time within the 15 minutes, maybe you can pick a second topic, but focus really on one. And then what we'll do is we use these post-its where you can drag them across. Let me just pop them on the screen here. So you can move these post-its around. You can drag them from one side to the other. You can double click You can edit them, edit the text. If you wish, you can change the colors. Again, if you wish, you can draw other boxes. You can use lines if you want to connect things. But if you look at the top, there's a little arrow, so you can move to the left and to the right. So each room will have its own. It'd be handy if you edited the top line to say which topic you were discussing. If you forget which topics there are, you can always go back to the first page where it has a list. And if you wanted to, you could copy them out for these sessions here and then paste it into the title. Is everybody okay with the Jamboard? Used it before? Yeah. The link has just been put in the chat. Thank you. Hopefully you can connect to that. I'll wait until I see some people connecting. So we have 13 people. I believe that one person would prefer to be in an English speaking room, and there are 2 people that would prefer to be in a German speaking room. So it's Kristen and Tom, I believe, would like to be in a German room, and Carolina would like to be in an English room. So if you're with those people, could I ask if you would maybe speak German with those 2 people that would prefer German, and could speak English with the people that prefer to speak English? If you're in a room where nobody's bothered, could I suggest English? Maybe if you could fill in the Jamboard using English as well, if that's okay. And I would, if it's possible, the person who's going to speak for the group, could you also present back in English? Is that okay? Yeah, all good. Right. Does anybody need any more help on what we're doing?
Yes,
you'll join
please.
a group. What? Yes, I'm gonna create a breakout room automatically. So we've got
Yes. Hello,
13
please.
people. Oh, hello. Hi, Isabel.
Hi. I joined it a little bit later. I missed the first minutes, and I don't know how to join a group. Then I found the Jamboard, but how to join a group?
Okay. What I'm doing is I'm going to create breakout rooms now,
Okay.
and we have 13 people to go into breakout rooms. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to randomly assign the breakout rooms, and then just make sure that I put the 2 people who have a German preference into the same room, into a different room to the English speaking person. So we've got 13 people. I'm going to create 4.
Yeah, maybe we should
4 breakout rooms.
Any more people who would like to join the German breakout session, because maybe you missed that chance to point that out to me in the mail up front. So you could just pop a thumb up in the chat if you would like to join the German breakout. And if you don't mind which language you will be put in an English room.
All right. How do I move people? Okay, I'm not. Oh, assign participants. Right. Okay, so I've got Kristen, who is in room 2, and Tom is in room 1. So I'll put Tom in room 2, and I'll put Carolina is in room 1. Okay, let's see if that works. Yeah, so we've got 3, 4, 3, 3. So 1 room with 4, 3 rooms with 3. So if I call out your names, I'll tell you which room you're in. So when you go into the Jamboard, you'll pick the right tab. So room 1 is Carolina, Katharina, Isabella. Room 2, Julia, Kristen, Tom, and Marta. Room 3 is Neela, Sandra, and Olaf. And room 4 is Katarina, Shala, Rebecca, and Anna. Yeah. Hopefully I pronounced the names reasonably correctly. Didn't make too many errors. So is everyone okay with those rooms?
Do we have more people? Do we have people in the German room now that don't speak German?
So the German room is Julia, Christian. No, sorry. Yeah, Julia, Christian, Tom, and Marta. Everybody okay speaking German in room 2?
I see people nodding, a thumb up. Okay, no protest, good.
Okay, saw a message in the chat. Katarina Thomas, is it? Tomau, you're in room 1. I think when you go into, if you look in Teams, it will tell you which breakout room you're in as well. If you look in the Teams chat. Okay, so just to refresh, that's what we're looking at. So pick a group, question in the group. Everyone clear on what we're talking about? Yeah, everyone happy with that? So we're going to the breakout room 15 minutes. Then we'll come back, report back, then we'll have a discussion. Then we'll do some Q&A and some talking about what we've just talked about. Okay. Right. So let me open the rooms. This always takes.
Have like.
Hello,
I think
welcome
Teams
back.
should learn to be polite and wait until the end of a sentence. It always closes the breakout room in the middle of and then you.
I echo what Carolina said and fully agree.
Yes, it's so frustrating, isn't it? I should give you a countdown. Stop talking now. Okay, right. I can see you've all been very busy. It's fantastic. Let me put myself big, and I can also bring the Jamboards there as well. So room 1, who would like to be your spokesperson? You have 5 or so minutes you can spend feeding back, so don't need to rush. So that was Carolina, Katerina, Isabella, is it?
Yeah, exactly. And I was kind of forced to be the presenter. No, we, of course, agreed that it would be okay for me to start presenting our ideas. And Isabella and Carolina, please let me know whenever I didn't really catch what we were actually saying and discussing. So in terms of what we're doing well, we thought, well, we have a lot of initiatives now on diversity and inclusion. So that's, of course, great that we can actually really choose choose which initiatives we would like to join, what we would like to hear more of. So there is offerings now, which is great. And then again, also in terms of improvements, you could also say there can still be more, and it's just the beginning. So it's still a lot of raising awareness that has to be done. But at least it's a great starting point, and we have many initiatives now on diversity and inclusion. And then we also see more specific, maybe smaller initiatives in terms, maybe as an example, for the Gender Balance Initiative for NMN, where one of the measures of trying to achieve gender balance is also, for example, in new jobs, the possibility to work part-time and not only full-time. And then also that we really look at the language in job postings so that we really try to have an inclusive language, or actually a balanced language. And at Aviv, there are culture champions, which I, to be honest, hadn't really heard of. But Isabella was telling us about it. So that's really a great initiative, and I guess it would be a major improvement to have it not only at Aviv, but maybe also company-wide. Then in terms of improvements, yes, I was already stressing raising awareness. We need more of it, and I guess it needs to be continued, especially also for leaders, trainings on diversity, on inclusive leadership. What does it actually mean? And also what we're actually discussing here. What are all the biases we have and we're just simply not aware of? We do encounter a lot of language barriers. Also in our group, we're talking about it. Not everyone or many at Axel Springer speak German. We have mostly homogeneous groups. And then many people feel uncomfortable if they're the ones who are not speaking German. So everyone has to speak English because of maybe that person. This person feels uncomfortable, but then also the Germans, the big group of Germans also maybe feel uncomfortable because they're not that fluently in English, and the other way around. So language, I guess, is a bit, or was for us, a big topic to discuss, because it can make it so much easier to communicate, but then also so much harder to communicate if you just don't feel that you can really stress, or that you can really communicate what you wanna say. So language is a huge factor where we could improve on, and then also of, well, having more heterogeneous groups, and then actually collecting experience and becoming more becoming better in being inclusive, because I mean, I guess you can only try it out if you have the chance to try it out. So Isabella, Carolina, is there anything you would like to add?
No, you did a good job, Katarina.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Congratulate you. Yes, great job.
Fantastic, brilliant. So Marta's put a comment there. Would you like to tell us about the culture champions you were talking about?
Yes. It's for me?
Is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, to Isabella.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm here because I was telling Katrina and Carolina that I'm a culture champion for Aviv. It's something that it's a group of people because Aviv is about 2,000 people in France, Belgium, and Germany, and different languages, different countries, different cultures. And they created this a few months ago, and it's just the beginning. And we are 20 culture champions. And it's just the start, but the idea is to work with the leader teams, to talk to people, to try to identify all the, it's not only about it's not even about inclusion, it's about the way you feel in the company, the behaviors they expect from you, and the way leaders can make people be happy, go to work and be happy, and do the job, deliver the results, but feeling respected, feeling heard. And so it's just the beginning, but I believe it's a good initiative because there is a very work of diversity to create this group. And it's the first year and it just started, but they are thinking about changing every year the promotions, so new people could come, because it's on a volunteer basis, and there were a lot of people that wanted to join the group, and they had to make a choice to have really a diversity of countries, also people working there for a long time, and people that just joined the group. So I believe it's a good initiative, and I was wondering if in Axel Springer it already exists on the other companies, but I'm not sure. At least Katrina and Carolina didn't heard about it.
Anybody else aware? Anyone heard of that before? No, sounds like it's a good initiative that be worth sharing some expertise on. So yeah, brilliant. Anybody else got any questions from anyone in room 1 before we move on to room 2? No? Okay, let's pop the room 2 Jamboard up. There we go. And room 2 was Julia, Kristin, Tom, or Marta?
Yes, it's me. I'm going to present our results. So yeah, first of all, we talked about the hurdles, and we said that mostly it's kind of different what somebody is saying, or what the manager is saying, versus how this person is really behaving. And so everything that is talked is something different to what body language is doing. And so this could be something that is kind of difficult, because person hears something but also sees something else, and maybe doesn't want to share perspectives or backgrounds. Then we also said that emotions could be a hurdle because of course the person or what, maybe not of course, but it could be that the person who has the other perspective is, for this person, it's a kind of emotional topic. Maybe this could be one reason, because it's difficult for the person to talk about this topic, especially when it comes spontaneously. Then we thought, often you see that leaders still have this thinking of, okay, I'm right, my perspective is the right one. So this could be also a hurdle. Also that then people quickly start to justify instead of ask questions, and listen and be open for what is told to them. And then, of course, the level of trust and integrity also plays a role in every conversation, especially in these ones, I think. These would all be hurdles we collected. And then we talked about how we could overcome these. And we had some ideas like, making your own emotions conscious. So, be conscious about your own emotions when you talk to someone, so that you can just, regulate in the situation. Accept that everyone is right in his or her perspective. Then maybe ask people before you want to talk to them, and give them time to prepare. Listen actively, and of course don't judge. And also maybe we also talked about in a group. So if you're talking in a group about the topics, as a leader, you could ask the right questions. So imagine you were in that situation. So to maybe get the people talking. Group. Anything
Fantastic.
else? Anything I forgot? Just add to it.
No, I think you did it brilliantly fine.
Thank you.
Does anybody from the other rooms want to ask a question of room 2 or some clarification points? No. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. So room 3 was, move the slide on. Olaf, Sandra, and Nell.
Yes, Olaf had to drop out of the meeting for about 10 minutes. He'll be back though. So I'm reporting for our group and what we have discussed. We also picked the orange post-it about what hurdles we've encountered as leaders. And we, in this case, especially focused on communication with colleagues from different backgrounds. And we focused on feedback culture and how feedback is given and how it's perceived, or whether the feedback process is actually working at all. And we discussed a specific case of where 2 people are coming from quite, at least location far countries, and also culturally probably different backgrounds, and where there was the situation where it wasn't clear whether the feedback is perceived. And this was overcome by actually asking that person, like, do you understand the feedback I'm giving? How are you perceiving this? And we drove and we dived deeper into this conversation around the topic, really having awareness for the cultural backgrounds of people. Sandra then mentioned a session we had like earlier this year, which was with Erin Meyer, who shaped this cultural map where you can see kind of like where countries and backgrounds are located in terms of, for example, indirect or direct communication. And we had quite some fun in comparing whether, for example, Poland and Germany have direct communication styles and how different we already perceive this, although we are quite, location-wise, quite close to each other. And in terms of that, I brought up the phrase of know and don't assume, because I think especially when countries are close to us, we often assume that we do have the same cultural backgrounds, although that often is not the case. And there are like maybe slight differences that might actually lead to big differences in the perception of how something said is perceived. And what it all boiled down for us, I think, is kind of like also this: how safe do I feel in the team to perceive feedback? How do I see mistake culture being cultivated in the team, which are kind of like the underlying important factors for communication then to flourish. And Sandra, maybe you want to jump in because you said something about leading with context.
Oh, that was particularly related to the comment Olaf made regarding communication, communicating the actions or the next steps. So basically, how directly we or how we tell people that job has to be done. And my answer to the point, like telling people what they should do, is not a solution. I would rather say like the context we're operating in is a starting point for helping people to feel empowered to take their own decision what has to be done. So instead of telling like commanding, really giving the context to people so that way they can take their own decisions and design the solution that fits into the context that we are in. So that was related to that.
Fantastic. I've done work with other companies and again around the same sort of thing. You talk about the direct indirect communication. And what they've introduced is almost like a communication contract where you sit down as a team and all share your preferred style. So you start to understand the different ways people communicate, and then you can then adapt yourselves. If one of you knows you're indirect and one the other person's direct, you can then try and meet in the middle where you're both a little bit less direct or less indirect. So I think being open about that within the team, within the organization, and being willing to share that avoids those miscommunications. And nobody likes harsh feedback. But if you're a direct person, you give very, very focused feedback, and some people are not used to that. So yeah, but if you understand that's the way the person is, then you can adapt around it. So I think that's quite a good technique other companies have used. Anyone got any thoughts on anything from room 3? No. Carolina's loving her deck chair there. It's a bit windy.
Yeah, I think it's,
Okay.
we're having a good time here.
Excellent. Right. So room 4. Katerina, I think Rebecca's left, and Anna. So Katerina and Anna.
Yeah, I'm gonna speak first too. So Anna and I, we talked about the 6 C's of inclusive leadership and what we think is most important and what do we think needs to be developed. And first of all, we think obviously they are all important, but we both focused on courage, curiosity, and went into a discussion from there on. And for example, we talked about that courage is needed in many aspects. For example, when we look at bias, we need to have the courage to first start talking about them because mostly they lie within ourselves. So it takes a bit of time to actually recognize them and admit them to ourselves and to others. And there also comes in that we need to be strong and brave to also admit to our mistakes and own them and then change according to them. this is what we think is also really important to a leader, because there this person can be acting as a role model to others. And therefore, we think a culture in a company which doesn't also expect everyone to know everything, but opens up space also for the leader to ask more questions about people, and therefore express the curiosity which is needed to understand the people, is really important. Therefore, also we have being a listener really in the focus of our notes. We also talked about commitment, and that it's good to talk about diversity and inclusion, but it's also really important to act up on it, and to not act up on what we expect, but what we have listened as leaders, and then act according to what our team, what our people need. Oh, thank you. Yes. And then we what do we need to define? Yeah, we talked about what we need to develop. And I think there we also came quite to an individual level, because we talked that we need the courage to actually do mistakes, act them, and stop being afraid of them, because we see that there are a lot of people who have really great ideas according to those matters, but expressing your ideas makes you vulnerable, and you need to work in an environment where it's okay to share them and get the constructive criticism and the ideas of others to actually act up on them. Yeah, Anna, do you want to add anything? I think I'm really fast.
I think you said everything. Thank you.
Okay.
Brilliant. I think that one of the other groups said it's not just about being right. You don't have to be right. You just have to create environments where you can discuss different ideas, share things, listen.
Yeah.
As a leader, maybe your opinion is last rather than first, so you invite conversation and discussion.
Yeah, I think
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I think I missed one important word, which is shame. Like, we talked a lot about shame, and I think it needs to be somehow reduced, that you don't feel easily ashamed about something in a team or as a leader.
Yeah, completely. Shame and guilt are not productive.
Yeah.
They change nothing. It makes it about you. So it's about bringing change and what can you do? Yeah, a very good point. Excellent.
Thank you.
Anybody got any questions of room 4? Anything to add? Does anyone like to add anything to what you've heard, or anything else you want to add? No? Okay, excellent. Right, let me pop the so you'll get a copy of the slides, you'll get a copy of this Jamboard as well, so I'll make sure you get that shortly. Okay, right, where's my window gone? There it is. We've done that. So some things to think about. Be aware of your own communication style and be adaptive. This is direct, indirect, as we talked about. Be curious in other people and their cultures, just the cultural intelligence, learning about different people's styles to make people react. Work to understand and mitigate biases, because we can't get rid of biases. We can't get rid of blind spots. So I think some of the important thing is we can flag them up to others. I don't know if it's culturally acceptable in Germany to talk about this, but it's a bit like having body odor. So only your best friend will tell you that your armpits don't smell nice. So it's about if someone has a blind spot, they have a bias, they maybe not see it in themselves. So it's having the courage to address that in a constructive and helpful way, point it out, and then yourself being willing and open to have people flag up where they see you have a bias or a blind spot and help you work through that. Challenging perspectives. I think we said just now, it's not about being right. It's about having our view, looking for alternate views, making sure that we're not the only view. It's not the only story we have. Start looking for the why. Why do I think that? Why do I believe that? Why am I right? Actually, I could be wrong. So let's start challenging ourselves to find out where we overcome our confirmation bias. So we start looking for ways that we try and prove ourselves wrong rather than prove ourselves right. Recognize our own limitations of expertise and knowledge, So develop and seek out new knowledge. If we start to feel uncomfortable, I always think that's a trigger to learn more, to explore more. And if we think about the coaching model, we go from our comfort zone to our stretch zone and stay out of our panic zone. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to grow ourselves as people as well. Use empathy and compassion. We talked about that. It's about listening, making sure we're involving our people, understanding their needs, and then creating an environment where people feel safe. They don't need to hide who they are. They don't need to cover who they are. They can kind of bring their whole self to work, which I know is a bit of a cliche, but it's making sure that people feel they can speak up and contribute. So culture change it starts with us as leaders, and we may not be able to change the world on our own. We can't change everything, but we can change ourselves. We can take personal responsibility for changing our own the way we show up, so we can be the one that makes that change. So I'd ask you as we wrap up, what are the key learning points from today? This is just maybe a reflection in your own mind. If you want to pop it in the chat, that's fine. Think about what you can do differently. So we've had an hour and a half together. It's about what we can do now, what we can do differently, what we can learn, what we can implement. And then what more support do you need as a leader, as a team? Is it more training? Is it more collaboration? Is it sharing best practice? So how can you seek out that support? I'm happy to take questions now for the last 5 or 10 minutes, or pass it back to Neil.
Thank you, Joanne. Sorry, my voice faded from listening to you all. Thank you so much for contributing and putting your thoughts into this. Joanne, could you give me the rights to share my screen again? Because it's
okay. Let's see who could present. Everyone. So should we try that? Is that going to work?
Oh yeah, now I can push that button. All right, let me see how this. It's interesting. I think from going into the breakout rooms, everything switched on my computer. So let me see. I think now I can share it with you, because I would be curious to just learn from you in 3 really simple and easy questions. How you perceived this session, what you liked, what you're wishing for to see more of in the future. So grab your smartphone and scan the QR code, and I can see all your faces whether you are doing that. It's a really good control mechanism, actually. So I would be really happy to learn that from you. And I hope you will be joining more of our events from the Global Diversity Month if you have the chance to pop in here into the office in Berlin. We're having, for example, a breakfast going on next week on Wednesday, I believe. Just, yeah, you can also just come to grab a coffee and connect. There will be some tables where you can also connect around some topics and exchange. So warm welcome there. We will also have a panel discussion with some CEOs next week who were involved in creating the D&I strategy here at Axel Springer. And if everyone already scanned the QR code for the feedback, here's also the QR code for the next program. So I'm really looking forward to that. Otherwise, in week 3, there's also a workshop which I will be facilitating, where we will have a closer look at the new D&I strategy, because I think strategies can seem very abstract and kind of something other people are going to solve for you, and then you just have to wait 5 years. So my workshop with you will be to look at the program more closely, to find out how you can actually take part in making the change happen. Which areas of the strategy do appeal to you? Where's your area of influence? So warm welcome. Thank you, Sandra, for popping the program also into the chat again. And with that, I think the last thing I need to do is to thank Joanne today for joining us here. It was so good having you back again.
Thank you for welcoming me.
Yes, thank you for being part of our D&I journey again. And with that, I wish you all a good afternoon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Have a great day.
Ciao, ciao. Have a
Bye.
great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good. I think
Okay.
just the two of us left.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that's
Joanne.
brilliant.
I think went well, didn't it?
Yeah, good, some good conversations in the breakout rooms. I could see, I was watching people moving the post-its around, and it was quite good, which is why I thought, well, we'll let it run, because people are still talking and interacting. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think
Good.
that was a great chance for people to connect and think about these topics, which was nice. So thank
Well,
you.
good luck, and hopefully speak to you again soon. And
Yes. Please send the recording to me.
I will. I'll do that as soon as we hang up. I'll send you the link to the recording and the slides and the PDF for the Jamboard and everything. I think it will come quickly, and I'll send it as soon as I can.
That's great. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Enjoy London.
Yes, thank you. Take care. See you. Bye.
Bye.